Have you ever told yourself, I am just going to check one more thing on my phone, and then suddenly an entire hour disappeared? You crawl into bed genuinely tired, but instead of turning off the lights, you unlock the screen and fall into that endless scroll. It feels like a way to relax, a small reward at the end of a long day. What almost nobody realizes in that moment is that this harmless habit is sending a very powerful signal to your brain. Stay awake. If you've ever found yourself scrolling in bed and wondering why sleep feels harder lately, keep watching, because the next part explains what's happening inside your brain in a way that will make your habits instantly click. Your body has a built-in timing system that expects darkness at night to prepare you for sleep. When you light up your face with a phone, tablet, laptop, or television in a dark room, you are giving your brain the exact opposite of what it is waiting for. It's like you are opening the curtains to midday sun, but in miniature form, right in front of your eyes. That disconnect between what your body expects and what you are actually doing is the starting point of a lot of the trouble. The tricky part is that the effects often don't feel obvious right away. You might fall asleep a little later and wake up thinking, I feel fine, this is not a big deal. But over time, night after night, your sleep can gradually feel lighter, shorter, or less restorative, and you may not connect that change back to your screen habit. It just feels like life is more tiring, like you are naturally a bad sleeper, when in reality, you are fighting against your own biology. In this video, we are going to unpack what is really going on when you use screens at night, especially what they do to a key hormone called melatonin. Even more important, you will understand whether there is any way to use screens at night without seriously disrupting your sleep. So do not go anywhere yet, because some of the most important details will only make sense when you see the full picture. Inside your brain, there is a tiny region that works like a master clock. It receives information about light and darkness from your eyes and uses that to coordinate almost everything in your body that follows a daily rhythm: body temperature, hunger, hormone release, and of course, when you start to feel sleepy. This internal clock runs on roughly a 24-hour cycle, which is why it's called a circadian rhythm. During the day, natural light, especially in the morning, tells this clock, it's daytime, be alert. That's why stepping outside soon after waking can help you feel more awake and set the timing for your evening sleepiness. As daylight fades and darkness comes, the lack of light tells the clock that night is approaching. In response, it starts a cascade of signals that gradually slow you down and prepare you for sleep.
So, when you stay in a dark room but shine a bright screen into your eyes, your master clock gets very confused. It receives a mixed message. The environment is dark, but the light hitting your retina looks like daytime. And when that happens, one of the first things that gets disrupted is the release of melatonin, the hormone that tells the rest of your body night has truly arrived. It is time to sleep. Melatonin is often called the sleep hormone, but a more accurate description would be darkness signal. Your brain does not release melatonin just because you are tired. It releases melatonin when it believes night has come. As the evening progresses and light levels naturally fall, your brain starts increasing melatonin production, which makes you feel drowsy and ready to drift off. Now, imagine you are at that stage, and instead of letting darkness take over, you unlock your phone and open a bright screen. The light entering your eyes, especially the blue enriched light typical of LEDs and displays, sends a powerful signal to the brain regions that control melatonin. The message is basically, hold on, night hasn't fully arrived yet. As a result, melatonin can rise more slowly or later than it normally would. The result is simple but brutal. You do not feel as sleepy as you should. You might think, I guess I'm just a night owl, or I'm not tired yet, I'll scroll a bit more. In reality, your natural sleepiness has been pushed later. The natural rise of melatonin, which should be your internal good night signal, has been muted by a screen you're holding in your own hand. Not all light is equal in the eyes of your brain. The cells in your retina that talk directly to your internal clock are especially sensitive to shorter wavelengths of light, the kind we casually call blue light.
Daylight, especially around midday, is naturally rich in this type of light. It's one of the reasons bright midday sun is such a strong alerting signal. Most modern screens, phones, tablets, laptops, televisions, use LEDs that emit a lot of this blue enriched light. When you hold a phone close to your face in a dark room, the amount of blue-rich light that hits those sensitive retinal cells can be surprisingly strong relative to the surrounding darkness. To your brain, that looks a lot like a mini midday shining straight into your eyes, even if the clock on the wall says it's very late. Research suggests that bright screen exposure in the evening can delay the normal timing of melatonin, sometimes by minutes, and in some situations by longer, depending on brightness, duration, and distance from the eyes. That delay means your internal night starts later, which pushes your sleep time later and can reduce your total sleep duration, especially if you still have to wake up early the next morning. So when people say screens at night confuse your brain, it's not just a figure of speech. The specific qualities of screen light make your master clock believe that the day is still going. And as long as your brain thinks it's daytime, it can make it harder to transition into sleep mode, no matter how exhausted your body actually feels. Let's talk about the classic habit: lying in bed, lights off, phone a few centimeters from your face. At that distance, the screen doesn't have to be extremely bright to deliver a strong light signal to your retina. Your pupils are more dilated in the dark, so they let in more light, and the screen becomes an intense spotlight aimed directly at the cells that control your body clock.
Brightness is another key factor. Many people leave their screen at a high brightness setting out of habit, even at night. The brighter the screen, the more light hits those light-sensitive cells and the stronger the suppression of melatonin. Even medium brightness can be very stimulating when everything around you is dark and your eyes are fully adapted to the night. Time is the third piece of the puzzle. A quick, very brief glance at your screen will have less impact than spending long stretches scrolling, watching videos, or answering messages. The longer you expose your eyes to that light, the greater the potential delay in your melatonin rise. That is why that famous "just 5 more minutes" often turns into a much later bedtime and a surprisingly restless night. The tricky part is that all three factors, distance, brightness, and duration, tend to stack up in bed. You are close to the screen, the brightness is higher than it should be for that time of night, and the minutes quietly turn into half an hour or more. If you want to keep using screens at night without seriously disrupting your melatonin rhythm, those are exactly the variables you'll need to learn how to control. You know that tiny negotiation you do in your head? I'll watch one more video. I'll read one more thread. I'll check one more notification. It feels small and harmless, like it cannot possibly change anything in a serious way. But when those little extensions happen right at the time your body is trying to switch into sleep mode, they can have a surprisingly large effect. Each extra slice of screen time in the late evening pushes your melatonin rhythm a bit further back. That means your brain starts the deep stages of sleep later than it should. If your wake-up time stays fixed because of work, school, or family, you end up compressing your sleep window from one side. You cut off the beginning of the night, which is often when some of the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep happen. On top of that, what you're consuming on the screen also matters. Stimulating, emotional, or stressful content can keep your mind racing even after you finally turn the device off. Your body might be in bed, the lights might be out, but your brain is replaying arguments, dramatic scenes, or rapid-fire social media content. That mental arousal is another reason you do not drift off as quickly as you should. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, pause and drop a comment like, "That is literally me with 5 more minutes every night," because acknowledging it is the first step to changing it. Later in this video, you're going to see how to adjust this habit without needing to give up screens completely, but first we need to look at what all this does to you the next day. The morning after a late, screen-filled night has a very specific feeling.
You might wake up with your alarm, but you do not feel refreshed. Your eyelids feel heavy, your thoughts are slower, and simple tasks require more effort than usual. It can feel like your brain is trying to run through mud. That feeling often lines up with a sleep window that got pushed later, shortened, or both. Throughout the day, you might notice that your focus does not last. You drift off more easily during meetings. Studying takes more effort, and you catch yourself rereading the same lines several times. Sleep loss and circadian disruption can reduce attention, reaction time, and working memory, which means everything from learning to driving can be affected when your night was poorly timed. Emotionally, the impact can be just as strong. People who sleep less or at the wrong biological time often report more irritability, less patience, and a lower stress threshold. Small problems feel bigger, and it becomes easier to snap at people you care about. That emotional fragility is not a character flaw. It is your brain struggling to regulate itself while running on a tired, misaligned system. If the disconnect between your internal clock and your actual sleep schedule goes on for a long time, it stops being only about feeling tired or distracted. Long-term circadian disruption is associated with a higher risk of several health problems, including metabolic issues like weight gain and insulin resistance, mood disorders such as depression and anxiety, and even cardiovascular disease over the long term. When your melatonin rhythm is constantly delayed or flattened by nightly light exposure, your body loses a clear signal of when it is night internally. That can ripple through other hormones that follow daily patterns, such as cortisol, which is involved in stress responses, and hormones related to appetite. You might notice you feel hungrier late at night, crave more highly processed foods, or snack more mindlessly. Your immune system also depends on regular, high-quality sleep to function properly. Repeated nights of shortened or mistimed sleep can impair the way your body responds to infections and vaccinations, and can increase inflammation markers over time. It is not dramatic in one single night, but it is the slow accumulation that matters. Over time, this pattern can quietly add strain in ways you might not notice day to day. This does not mean that one late night of watching a series will ruin your life. It means that a pattern of pushing sleep later and later with screens, year after year, is not neutral. If you are already dealing with stress, mood issues, weight struggles, or chronic fatigue, aligning your screen use with your melatonin rhythm is not just about feeling rested. It can be a concrete step toward protecting your long-term health. You've probably heard the villain story. Blue light is evil. Blue light is the problem. The reality is a little more nuanced. Blue-enriched light is indeed very effective at suppressing melatonin and shifting your internal clock when used at the wrong time, especially in the late evening and at night. That's why screens and some artificial lights can be so disruptive when used close to bedtime. However, blue light is not inherently bad. During the morning and daytime, that same spectrum is extremely helpful. It boosts alertness, improves reaction time, and helps anchor your circadian rhythm to the daylight cycle. Natural morning light is one of the best tools you have to strengthen your internal clock. The problem is not blue light itself. The problem is blue light at the wrong time. There is also more to the story than just wavelength. The intensity of the light, the duration of exposure, and how close it is to your eyes are all critical factors. A bright white screen 2 hand widths from your face in a dark bedroom is very different from a dim, warm lamp on the other side of the room. Treating all evening light as equal misses those important details. So instead of thinking blue light is destroying my life, it is more accurate to think my timing and dose of light are out of sync with my biology. That mindset is much more powerful because you can change timing and dose. And in a moment, you will see how you can adjust your screen habits to work with your melatonin, not against it, without needing to throw all your devices away. Let us finally answer the big question. Is it possible to use screens at night without seriously disrupting your melatonin rhythm and your sleep? The honest answer is that any bright screen late at night will have some impact. But you can significantly reduce the impact by controlling the three main levers you learned about: brightness, distance, and duration, along with the timing relative to your natural bedtime. First, reduce brightness more than you think you need to. Use night modes, warm color filters, and manual brightness reduction, especially in the hour before you want to sleep. A screen that looks comfortably bright in a dark room is often far brighter than necessary for basic tasks like reading. Aim for the lowest brightness that still feels usable and avoid pure white backgrounds when possible. Second, increase the distance between your eyes and the screen. Watching something on a television across the room is less intense for your circadian system than holding a phone right in front of your face. If you need to use a phone, try not to use it inches from your eyes while lying flat in the dark. Sitting up in bed with a bit more distance or using a larger device placed further away can reduce the signal strength. Third, limit the total length of exposure in the last part of your evening. Decide in advance on a cutoff time for screens, ideally around 1 to 2 hours before your target sleep time, and respect it like you respect a final boarding call at the airport. If you know you will struggle with that, use small tools like alarms, app limits, or placing the charger away from your bed so that you physically stop earlier instead of drifting into another hour of scrolling. Once you pull screens back from the very edge of your night, you're going to have a strange experience. Extra time in the evening that you're used to filling with feeds, videos, and notifications. The key is to replace that with activities that actually support your melatonin and your sleep instead of fighting against them. Think of it as building a gentle landing strip for your brain. Low light, low stimulation activities are your best allies here. Reading a physical book or an e-reader with a very dim, warm light, stretching gently, journaling, or listening to calm audio content can all help your mind transition from input mode to rest mode. The important thing is that whatever you choose does not flood your eyes with bright light or flood your brain with strong emotions. You can also adjust your environment. Use warm, dim lamps instead of bright overhead white lights in the last part of the evening. If you live in a small space, even something as simple as a bedside lamp with a warm bulb can change the entire feeling of the room. Your brain starts to associate that softer light with the approaching night, making it easier for melatonin to rise and for sleepiness to grow naturally. When you start respecting the relationship between light, melatonin, and your internal clock, some people notice changes fairly quickly, while for others it takes longer. You might notice that you feel sleepy a bit earlier, that it is easier to fall asleep once you lie down, and that your sleep feels deeper and more continuous. Mornings may feel slightly less brutal, and your need to hit snooze over and over can start to shrink. Over time, better aligned sleep can pay off in more stable mood, better focus, and a greater sense of mental resilience. Tasks that felt overwhelming when you were chronically tired become more manageable. You may find it easier to stick to exercise, make healthier food choices, and handle daily stress without feeling completely drained. All of that is your nervous system working closer to how it was designed to work. Protecting your melatonin does not mean you have to move to a cabin in the woods and abandon technology. It means you use your screens with a bit more strategy. Dinner, further away, for shorter periods, and not right up against your intended sleep time. It's about remembering that every late-night tap on a glowing screen is also a tap on your internal clock. If this video helped you finally connect your night screen habits with how you feel the next day, do not keep it to yourself. Hit like so the platform understands that this is useful. Subscribe if you want more content that explains health in a clear and science-based way. And share this with that friend who is always just 5 more minutes on their phone at 2 in the morning. Your sleep and your future self will thank you for it.